All right, so some sanity prevailed in this country. We saw Mark Miller announced a cap on the international students visa application, and that cap is going to be valid for next 2 years, 2024 and 2025. And according to that cap, the total amount of applications that is going to be processed in 2024 and 2025 is going to be limited up to 360,000 per year. Okay, that will be a reduction by 35% compared to last year, which is 2023. So in this video, we're going to discuss the economic impact that is going to happen in Canada as a result of this policy change. So first of all, this is a massive move. If you haven't paid attention to this, that is going to have an impact. And I see this policy is a good policy decision made in a positive direction. I'll explain why. Okay, don't be emotional about that. We have to think it through the economical sense. Okay, so let's talk about the number first. So up to some extent, these foreign students, when they come into this country, they bring up to $22 billion worth of economic impact, positive impact in this country. Okay, that's a massive economic contribution. They also cover up to 200,000 jobs in this country. Most of these jobs are blue collar jobs. Some say these are our jobs, in other words. Basically, these international students, they have visa restrictions when it comes to finding full-time work. So they can only find part-time jobs or cheap labor type of jobs where they can barely survive themselves. And at the same time, the employers also abuse them, giving them lower pay rate. Sometimes they give them cash in hand type of jobs where they only pay a very minimum hourly wage, because this is not on the record, it's under the table, nobody knows that, and this has been going on for a number of years. I myself is an immigrant. I have seen these things in the past, so that's why I can tell you the ground realities. Typically, a lot of people don't really see that. Let's continue talking about the numbers. So $22 billion of economic impact, up to 200,000 of jobs that they do. So this is a massive contribution. So when you minus 35% of these applications in the next few years, that is going to have some serious impact in the economy. So first of all, the number one thing that is going to be impacted are the universities. All of these university institutions, they rely on these foreign students because they pay more than 3 times a local student pay in terms of tuition fees. Okay, then they also pay rent, they also buy groceries, furnitures, other stuff that they need in order to survive in this country. The other impact is the postgraduate work permit program, where a lot of people bring their spouses with them and they enroll into a postgraduate diploma, for example, but their spouses will get the work permit. Okay, so that was also giving them an opportunity to bypass the entire system, get the work permit straight away, and then go through immigration quickly. That is also going to be changed. So this is only going to be available for people enrolling in master's and PhD programs, not for undergraduate or graduate programs anymore. Here's the problem. People assume, especially our policymakers, they assume that these students are coming in this country for a few years temporarily and then they will leave. That's the assumption that Stats Canada was making when they were counting the population growth, and CIBC broke that news and highlighted that Stats Canada have been undercounting the population not only by 100,000 or 200,000, by 1 million people. That's how embarrassing this has been. So definitely it's going to have more economic impact. Let's talk about housing. So the rental inflation that we have seen so far, that has been a direct impact of the international students, because when you bring a lot of people in this country, they need places to live. They cannot stay in the tents. Okay, that is driving the rental inflation. Now, housing cost is completely different from this. Okay, housing cost is a function of interest rate. It's a function of credit extension. That depends upon the banks, how they are making credit available, how cheap it is, how affordable it is. That will drive the house price acceleration. Okay, in the past 2-3 years, we have seen the boom and the bust of this as a result of the monetary policy, the interest rate policy in this country. So that is not really fueled by the temporary residents. It's mainly the function of available credit extension and the interest rate. So the rental inflation is a direct function of the population growth, both permanent and temporary residents. So definitely these immigration inflows right? This is driving the rental inflation. So when you reduce the temporary residents by 35%, that is going to be a relaxation in terms of the housing demand from a rental perspective. That is definitely a positive move in the right direction. Let's talk about the jobs. So we have seen negative real GDP growth in this country. And if you look at the past, it has been stagnant, okay? And this is the way you calculate the productivity of any nation. Check the real GDP per capita. And that has been stagnant. It has been negative now. And the reason why it is stagnant and negative, because we are importing these cheap labor, which is doing service-related jobs. So there is no productivity gain out of that. The employer are abusing by giving them cheap hourly rate. That is less effort work, okay? So the employer doesn't have to pay enough to do any more innovation to produce real goods and services. If we did not have a cheap labor, then the employers would be willing to pay more to find more productive ways to do things that will improve the productivity going forward in this country. So I think this policy is a good move in a positive direction, but we will not see the impact tomorrow, okay? Right now, to some estimate, we have 1 million international students in this country. We did not introduce this cap. Next year, that number would have been 1.2 million. And the year after, that number would have been 1.6 million. So we have to control this international students population growth by some measures. Otherwise, this is getting out of hands. The reason why this has to be tracked down is because there's a lot of fraud and scam going on. To some extent, 20% of these visa applicants, the international students visa applications, they are not enrolled in any college universities. What are they doing? They're doing maybe full-time job, right? As a cheap labor in a blue-collar type of jobs. So, and how they can do that? Because there are some fake colleges which are only issuing diplomas, no classes, no education whatsoever, and that will give them a path to apply for a permanent residence, okay? So all of these things are contributing so much deterioration in the economy that is going to have massive negative impacts going forward. So this has to be fixed, okay? This policy direction is a good step in a positive direction. Has to be done, but we will not see the impact right away. We will see the impact maybe next year when we see the reduction in the applications overall. Then the year after, we will see more impacts going forward. So I think we need to see some consistency in terms of these applications to be executed properly so that we can see the impacts going forward as well. And by the way, whoever comes in this country as a student, as a temporary work permit holder, they never go back. This assumption that people will go back is completely flawed. The way Stats Canada was undercounting the population is based upon this flawed assumption that whoever comes as a temporary resident will eventually leave. It doesn't happen. Nobody leaves. Maybe a fraction of those people would leave, but majority of them stay there, convert their status into PR, and then eventually become Canadian citizen. So again, I am an immigrant myself. I'm not against immigration. This needs to be controlled in a way that we don't deteriorate the economic condition, we don't deteriorate the housing condition, we don't have infrastructure to support the heavy influx of immigration. Housing has been a crisis, the healthcare has been under crisis, the transportation has been under crisis. So if we do not improve the overall infrastructure, we won't be able to support the influx of these immigrants. Otherwise, the overall quality of life will deteriorate over time. If you have any questions or comments, put your comments down below. Let me know what you think about that. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.